like to take naps. I don't like to wake up more than once a day, because when I first wake up, I get that shock of who I am and everything. I really don't like to do that more than once a day.
One of my favorite actors is someone who I think doesn't get discussed enough. To me, he's one of the funniest people on this earth, and that is Charles Grodin. Charles Grodin rarely plays the lead role. He's usually a sidekick. But in every case where he's a sidekick, he always steals the show.
Maybe all this is coincidence, but one thing is for sure. They have a coven and they want my baby.
Certainly seems that way.
I think a lot of people might be surprised to learn that Charles Grodin's first major role was in Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. He played the obstetrician, and it's a really important role because he's kind of the only person that believes Rosemary that something is very, very wrong and that there's a bunch of witches about to steal her baby. If you look at some of his roles in the early 1980s, you kind of see him always play this cad, this very milquetoast boyfriend. You see it in Claudia Veal's It's My Turn in 1980, where he's the boyfriend to Jill Clayburgh's protagonist, and it really, really hammers home that he is passionless and really leads her to cheat on him with Michael Douglas.
Homer, not funny. This is serious.
Listen, are
Jesus,
you kidding? Talking
this is
about
my
your
life.
breakthrough? Of course I'm listening.
I think one of the funniest roles that Charles Grodin has ever played is his role in the Steve Martin starring The Lonely Guy. This is Charles Grodin at his most desperate. He plays the average lonely guy, someone who can't find a date, who is just mired down with absolute loserdom.
Here's to...
Charles Grodin is really known for playing these very stiff, pessimistic businessmen. One of these stiff businessman roles that works really well is in Midnight Run, starring opposite Robert De Niro. Here we have Charles Grodin playing kind of a corrupt mafia accountant that's in over his head and is wanted by the FBI. Even though there's a lot of action where you're actually seeing Charles Grodin like jump off of cliffs, kind of the most dramatic you get from him is when he's deciding at the diner whether to order tea or coffee.
How much is the coffee?
It's 53 cents.
How much is tea?
53 cents.
Love tea.
He plays it in a way that makes it seem like this is the most urgent and dramatic moment of the entire film, and that's something that only Charles Grodin, with his cinema of exasperation, can achieve.
Have you noticed anything strange about your dog lately?
I mean, he's destroyed my life. Wish I was kidding.
I think it's really interesting that a lot of kids grew up with Charles Grodin as this father figure on film because of the two Beethoven films. He really does embody how children view adults, which is rigid and stiff and unimaginative, and he plays that to wonderful comic heights in Beethoven.
Yes, because this has always been my dream, Uncle Martin.
Yes, the same way as building a transit system was always my dream.
Why do you say was? Has something happened to it?
Has something happened to it? We'll see how you feel about your dream after being on the ride for 10 hours.
I think for Charles Grodin in Clifford, only he as a character is in a horror film and everyone else is in a family film. I love so much watching him try to deal with this maniacal, somewhat demonic 10-year-old child played by a 42-year-old Martin Short. And the way these two play off each other, you understand why he'd be driven to potentially kill his nephew on a dinosaur-themed roller coaster ride. What I would like to see is more appreciation paid to this actor, because I think he's one of our greatest comedians of the 1970s and forward. He really doesn't get enough credit because he's always the sidekick, but really, he never was the sidekick. He's always the main star to me.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.